can't believe this is the only book out there, Less Walk, More Talk, the only book on the Celtel story. Mo Ibrahim, the Sudanese billionaire who built Celtel, has gone on to launch his own foundation and is pretty much a force to be reckoned with on African issues. But there's something really valuable here, surprisingly valuable for you in terms of building your legacy if you love your country.
We're travelling the world to find the most inspiring stories and strategies to share with you. I'm Stephen Sonsino, and this is the Legacy Channel. Join us, it'll be fun.
There's never been much of a hullaballoo about this book, Less Walk, More Talk. Russel Southwood's really crafted an amazing story here. I bought it in an airport bookshop in Delhi. It's a riveting read with its story about the build-up and eventual sale of Celtel by Mo Ibrahim. There are lessons here, frankly, for any entrepreneur, let alone if you have an interest in telecoms or in Africa. But it's the stories that keep you hooked. How Celtel did business in a war zone and how it dealt with corruption. And I'll say more about that in a moment. What's the big idea in this book? Well, for me, this is a guidebook to building a legacy that serves your country. First of all, in the shape of the Celtel business. I've said before that your business can be a legacy, but only if it operates in a sustainable, successful way. And one of the strategies that Mo Ibrahim used to establish Celtel sustainably in Africa was to install a truly multinational team with people drawn from all over the globe. At one point, the senior management team included British, Dutch, Danish, Kenyan, Tanzanian, Ethiopian and Sudanese members. And across the company, there were over 50 nationalities. A Celtel spokesperson in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2002 noted the diversity just within one part of its operation. We find a Congolese as operations director in Celtel Gabon, a Zimbabwean as project director in Kinshasa, a Mauritian, as well as someone from Madagascar as regional directors. Mo Ibrahim managed to inspire their enthusiasm and get them to work together to a common goal. The company also appointed African managers who were sent to run things in countries other than their own. It began a process of management development, sending these managers off to London Business School to sharpen their skills. At a more humble level, the company was one of the major job generators over the last 10 years. Now, I'm sure getting the technical aspects of the business right helped. But the company went from a handful of people and no money to a multi-billion-dollar corporation in just 7 years. And part of that, I believe, is putting a strong global culture in place and a strong management team. Part of the strength of the Celtel management team was its experience of dealing with corruption. And there's an entire chapter of this book on the stance that Celtel took to deal with that. In fact, the board was put together consciously to act like a firewall. Far from oiling the wheels of business, as its defenders maintain, corruption in Africa is often just about taking money and not actually getting anything done. Celtel's board was consciously put together as a group of people who understood the issues and could act as a firewall against pressures to work in a less than transparent way. As Mo Ibrahim explained, some might regard a heavyweight board as restrictive to a startup company. But for Celtel, this has helped navigate some of the complex political currents. We made it clear that any requests for political donations and the like would be referred to the main board and discussed by the representatives of major donor nations. It showed everybody that we were serious about our anti-corruption stance, and it was a great protection. This clarity started right at the top of the organisation, with the institutional shareholders. We were clear with our shareholders, which included blue-chip institutional investors like ING and public sector investors like the World Bank's IFC, that you don't want to be in the news as part of a corruption scandal. Therefore, we will never entertain these discussions. If we go to a government, we explain to the shareholders. We'll do it in a professional way. We started by saying that we're going to run this company as you would any first world telecoms company. Then, after the WorldCom case in America, we said that we were going to run it better than American companies. Let us do business clearly and transparently. Let us import stuff fairly. Let's take money out to pay our shareholders. We'll pay taxes fairly. We're here to stay, was the clear message. That was Martin Peters. Ibrahim himself is also very clear. Corruption is a problem you need to deal with before it becomes part of the culture, he said. Beyond the Celtel culture, Ibrahim is truly focused on establishing a new culture in Africa. And it's business that is the driving force. It's in the private sector's interest to have an environment that is clean of corruption. For business creates jobs. Well-paid jobs create a middle class. This middle class creates knowledge, ethics, and culture. Putting aside completely the story of telecoms and Celtel, the astonishing takeaway for me from this book was Mo Ibrahim's other story. He set up a $100 million fund to take equity stakes in innovative African companies outside the telecom field. Well, okay, you might expect that of a visionary entrepreneur. But he also set up the Mo Ibrahim Foundation to address, wait for it, corporate governance. Not one of the more exciting projects, right? But Ibrahim seems to understand that it's poor leadership and poor governance that are anchors holding back development in the African continent. So, with the African Leadership Prize, Mo has set aside $5 million over 10 years, together with $200,000 for life for African leaders who rule well and who hand over power to a democratically elected leader at the end of their tenure. By the way, this is more than the $1.4 billion you get for winning the Nobel Prize. The prize and how it all works is striking. But more important, surely, is the Index of African Governance. This is a comprehensive ranking of sub-Saharan African nations according to governance criteria, governance quality. The index assesses national progress in sustainable economic development, health, education, transparency, and democracy, among other things. It was developed under the guidance, the direction of the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. This is serious stuff. And Ibrahim said when it launched, we want to give African civil society a tool to assess the performance of their governments in an objective way. Ultimately, the aim is to stamp out corruption across Africa, he says. The duty of nation building is different from fighting for independence. And I love that. I absolutely love that idea. The duty of nation building is different from fighting for independence. The verdict is in. If you are interested in telecoms in Africa, you should get this book. But more than that, besides the entrepreneurial successes of Mo Ibrahim and Celtel's evolution into Zain, this is an astonishing story of how to build a sustainable business across war zones on a continent where corruption and backhanders are endemic. And if you want to address these issues with your legacy, then the Celtel story shows us that the first step is the hardest. You must make a decision to take the high ground. If the future of your country is at stake, read this book. It will give you the courage to take that first step. That's it for another edition. It just remains for me to say that whatever you do, change the world.
We're travelling the world to find the most inspiring stories and strategies to share with you. I'm Stephen Sonsino, and this is the Legacy Channel. Join us. It'll be fun.